Alright, if you have the diag hooked up and working, you have your computer hooked up, and then you have it off, but battery connected, so this is a battery, and this would be the key switch. We go ahead and connect these guys together. Alright, we open PCM Hammer, and we should see at least 12 volts. You want it to be, 13. So that's good. Everything's a go. And then we can power on the key. Right? And we're going to hit read properties. And it's just going to tell us about this computer as it scans it. And there we go. You can see the VIN, everything. And then normally, right off the bat, I go ahead and copy the VIN, and I'll paste it into a note or whatever. And then I take a note of the OS ID. It's 8322. So we're going to go look for that. So this is the Snowman repository. You can also check the board truck owner, and it's going to be the same process for either one. Get to the bin files. On this one, it's by processor, so we're going to go P01 because this is an 01 computer, and we're going to go software, and then we're going to look for that 8322, and we're looking for a good XDF to support the bin file. We have to have both. So as you can see in the notes, it'll say XDF. If the label alpha, it's just starting out. If it's labeled RC1, it's still maybe not right. If it's a release, it's suitable for use, but may not be complete, whatever. We have a release and we have a bin. So we're going to hit the bin and see what this bin's for. And that's for 8.1 manual. We don't need that because we have a bin. So all we really need is the XDF. So we're going to hit that, and normally it'll give you like a download link or whatever, or raw. You may have to right click or two finger tap raw and download link file, save whatever, cut, and then that will save it as a .xdf file. If not, we just hit download. So now we're downloading that XDF, which is just the reference file to explain to us what that bin says inside of it. Alright, so now we're confident we have an 8322, and even if we couldn't find any, I always copy an entire copy, where's it at? Read entire PCM. So we're just going to make a clone of the actual bin file. And we know it's a 2001 53 4L60 4x4, and it's 8322 operating system. So we're going to save it as that and put stock real big in it so we don't lose it. And then we save it to not program files, but downloads, or maybe bins. Make a file folder called bins and keep it in the bins folder. Anyway, let's see. And it's going to copy it. It's going to read the entire PCM, and then we're good to go after it's done copying. So, side note, if, for example, that 8322, we couldn't find a good XDF, a definition file for this bin, we could pick a different file from that same, like it's an 0153 4L60. There's other operating systems on these websites that you just have to go through here one at a time, and like back, and then like let's say it was 2156. We'll hit that, and then look, we got 3 different bin files to choose from. When you hit it, it'll tell you what it was. Oh, that's for Corvette, so we don't want that one. The next one, see, also Corvette. You see what I'm saying, though? You go through here until you find an operating system that matches your setup. They're all the same. It's just the different injectors, maybe. But you got to find the same year, same setup, and then you can even change the stuff later in Tuner Pro Like if it's 4x4 but you need it to be two-wheel drive, you just turn off the 4x4 part. Or for example, you're changing it from like the drive-by-wire to the drive-by cable, and you need to put the 4.8 van operating system. You just find it here. Okay, once it says saving contents to the file name we created, and all of these buttons become available again, it's saved. I normally come over here and power off like the key so we can minimize PCM Hammer. We will be using it again. We're going to open Tuner Pro RT. Now, because we downloaded the Pro version, it's going to ask us to register. We're not going to do that. We're just going to wait the 10 seconds and then hit continue. And then as long as we leave it open, it doesn't ask us to do that again. Now, the first time you use a new XDF file, you're going to need to select it. So we're going to go in here to our XDF we downloaded. We're going to open it, but now we need to edit it to make sure that it has the proper settings for a GMLS PCM. So we're going to hit XDF again after we select our XDF, right? We're going to hit it again, and we're going to go down to View Edit XDF Header Info, and this will pop up. And then we're going to hit Checksums in the bottom left, and then this will pop up, and we're just going to hit Edit Selected. It doesn't matter which one. Now, in this little plugin module, we're going to hit this drop down, and we're going to select the GMP01P59 checksum, not the Tuner Pro default that we put in the preset folder I showed you in the other video. Okay, go back to part 2 if you don't remember. And then we're going to hit save. That's why we needed to put that file in there. Now that we have our XDF selected and edited, we're going to open our bin file that we saved from BCM Hammer in our bin folder, or the file that you're going to want to write back onto it. A different operating system maybe, whatever. So we're going to find that 0153 stock bin file. Now, the first thing we have to do right off the bat is double tap VATS right at the top, and then the VATS anti-theft system. You'll see it's marked 0. All right, and if we go down, if you don't have these comments here, hit View and hit Show Parameter Comments. Hit that. It'll be F10, or you can hit that, and that toggles it on and off. Alright, so you can see that 0 means class 2 serial data, 1 means pulse width PWM signal, and 2 means no VATS. So, that's not going to work if it's at 0. We have to immediately set it to a 2, hit save, and then we're going to go up to File, and we're going to hit Save Bin As, and we're going to leave our file exactly the way it was, except we're going to delete stock and add no VATS. So we have the same file, but now no VATS. And that's the only change we've made, because to change the VATS, you need to take that completely bone stock file with just the VATS changed. We need to go back into PCM Hammer. We need to hit Tools, and we want to write a full flash clone with the file we just made. Turn your key on. With the file we just made that says no VATS. Okay, it's going to say you got to wait 10 seconds since the key's been on, but it counts it off for you, so I don't touch anything. I just always let it count off this 10 seconds. And it's going to write the entire file with just the no VATS changed. It's like a system change, so it has to be done by itself. Otherwise, it may work, but more times than not, I've had problems later on. So you just write the no VATS file. We'll wait for that to write. All right, that has successfully written the VATS delete, but now you want to get rid of, say, EVAP or exhaust gas recirculation, EGR, or the secondary O2 sensors that go after the catalytic converters, because your cats ran away. You know, things like that. Turning a mechanical fan engine into electric fans so that it actually cycles the fans properly, like the old three-way relays. Anyway, so here's what you're going to do. Say, for example, this customer, he wants the cats and all that deleted. So we're first going to go up here to, where is it at? I forget. Anyway, it's Control F for find. And then I type in fans. Now you can see here type of fans. We're just going to double tap it. And you see 2, type of fans, number 2 right there. And you go down here to the parameter comments at the bottom. So we hit here, find number 2 in the box. So we look down here and we see 0 is parallel fans, which means both fan outputs 1 and 2 are used to control 2 fans. Okay. Auxiliary fans, only 1 fan output is used. That's the ground wires on lt1swap.com on the blueprint pinouts on the blue and the red connector, or the blue and the green connector. That's what it's talking about. Is it only going to trigger the low output, or is it going to trigger a low and a high? And then 2, no fans, because he has mechanical fans. So we're going to leave that alone. If he had the 3 relays like a Camaro, you can Google that, Camaro relay wiring for LS swap. You'd put it at 0. If you just want the low output to trigger a relay to turn a fan on or off instead of having low and high, do the number 1. Evap. We want to make sure that's off. So evap, purge temperature, it'll show these spreads, and evap purge canister time. Coolant temp must be above this value to allow the purge canister evap to operate. I just set this to the max, which is 250, and then it'll basically never try to do it, but we also change it later on. If you hit save, it'll save it. And then we go back over here and we're going to go cat lowercase. All right, catalytic converter protection enable is set. So we're going to turn that off and save. Now that's just saving it to the parameters. We have to save it as a new bin when we're done, so don't get ahead of yourself. All right, so we did the cat. We're going to do transmission type. We're going to make sure that is correct. 0 is a 4L60E, which is what he has. All right, EGR system enable. I think, yeah, on 01 they still had them. 03 to 07, I don't think they did. And then save. So now another one you're going to deal with is if you're running a manual tranny or like a non-electric tranny, a 300, 400 turbo, whatever, you're not going to need the transmission segment. So you'll want to get a manual file, or at least go in there and turn off the transmission stuff, like the codes that it'll throw, because it doesn't see the valves. That's pretty much it. But if you are running it and you're running a electronic speedometer, you're going to want the rear axle gear ratio to be right and the tire height of the rear wheels that are driving the vehicle in inches, because we need to add those to this file so that the computer knows how fast you're going and what the transmission speed, and it knows when to shift it and what to tell the speedometer. So now we open the Blue Cat Trans or BC Trans tool, and you're going to select what transmission you have from the drop down. You're going to select what throttle body you have, and because this is the 01, it'd be the 78 to 85, but if you've got a 02 to 03 or 04 and up truck, vet, whatever, it knows. And then you select that guy, and then up here I put the gear ratio that he's got in the truck and the tire height in inches, and that's with like the weight of the vehicle on it measured to the top of the tire. It's usually about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch less than if the tire's laying on the ground with a wheel on it. And then the stall converter, all that stuff I usually leave alone because this is like normally a stock build. You can get into all this. There's plenty of forums on all this other stuff, but I never mess with it. And this is doing what HP Tuner does when you hit the tire gear wizard. This is doing it externally for you. Hit export, and then export window, and we get this pop-up that'll just stay there. Even though we open our Tuner Pro back up, it's still there. All right, so now we need to find the main shift table in Tuner Pro. Control F and just type in shift, not shit, and we're going to find our shift tables. Let's move this up and over a little. And then we can find shift, part throttle shift speed. There it is. So that main shift table is your part throttle shift speed. And unfortunately, it lays it out in a way that will copy and paste directly into HP tuners. But this layout goes up and down. I haven't figured out how to, anyway. So all I do is one at a time. If they're different, I go through and I type these numbers. See, this is 11, 13, 14, 17 needs to be going here. 11, 13, 14, 17. Okay. So then once you copy this entire table over to this entire table and you hit close, it's going to ask you if you want to save it. Hit yes. And then if you're going to use a performance switch like tow haul mode or any of that, hot mode, cruise, if you're going to set up cruise, all those need to be changed to match as well. Okay. Then we're going to hit next. And it's going to tell us our wide open throttle shift. And then that should be here as well. Wide open throttle shift mode, mile per hour. And we're going to double tap it. And that pops up this. And same thing. You're going to copy those into those, make it match, close it, save, and then we're going to hit next. And wide open throttle RPM right up here, wide open throttle shift RPM, normal mode, 5600, a little bit different, so to change those, then you close it and you hit save. And then back to the Blue Cat, hit next. This is our TCC table. So up here, we're going to search for TCC. TCC apply, normal. We get this table. That's the top half of that table. The 255s down is the 256s or whatever down. So you just copy that over to there. And then same thing, do the performance now on release. That's the bottom half of this table. Boop, boop. You just copy that over. All right. And then close it and save it. And then hit next. And then these, I don't think are in here or in HP tuners. I've never found them. And then you see we're running out of nexts. But we still got to copy this stuff over. So we need to close and save these after we're done. All right. We're going to search for VSS. And we see our pulses per mile. Pulses per mile. So we're going to double click. That looks like a 101.0008, and it needs to be 88.739.72. So copy that, paste it there, close it and save it. Same thing, we need our VSS count. That's still 40, that doesn't change. Gear ratio, I think it's gear. Yep. So search gear, axle differential gear ratio, 3727, change it to 308. And then the trans revs per mile at the bottom here, you search rev and you get transmission output shaft revolutions per mile. And it's at 2537, needs to be 2218. And then you copy that, you save that. All right, after you've turned off everything you don't want, there is a way to do the check engine light codes in here. But you have to know what each P code means. It doesn't explain it very well. That's why we have the universal patcher. So we're done in here. You can always go in here and Control F, search for anything you don't like. You can change it. Search through here on the left. It'll kind of give you a pop-up of what everything is. When you're done changing everything here, go to File, Save Bin As, and then same thing. We're going to go down to our No VATs. And we're going to add a space and then no cats. no emission. And my gear size, I'm also going to change this to 2 before. And my tire size, so I remember. Alright, and that's everything. Hit save. It's going to make a new file now. Alright, and we're not going to close this in case we need it again. We don't have to wait the 10 seconds, just minimize it. Alright, so Universal Patcher. If there is a good XDF out there in the wild, then this will usually be able to read your bin. So we're going to open that bin we just saved, which was our fully adjusted transmission, tire size, everything. And up here in filter, we're going to hit DTC and enter. Alright, and then over here you'll see DTC enable and mill enable. We're just going to double click the top one. I maximize it, and then we're going to go through here and delete the options we don't want. There is a way to do no MAF sensor by killing the MAF sensor and the MAF settings and turning off the check engine light for the MAF sensor, but setting it to mill on the first error. So it puts it into speed density mode, then you don't have to run a MAF on a long ass intake and perfectly spaced and blah blah blah. I'll make another video. Comment if you want to see that. But what we really want to do right off the bat is we need to find the O2 sensors. Number 2, see bank 1 sensor 2, bank 2 sensor 2. Those are the ones after the cat. Bank 1 sensor 1, bank 2 sensor 1. Those are the ones that tell the computer what the fuel mixture is and how to adjust the injectors so that you get a proper air to fuel stoic perfect. As long as your O2s are good, it'll run better than any engine you've ever had. But we don't need to monitor the cats. These number 2 sensor, that just tells the computer if the cats are doing what they should or not. And it lights off a code to say, hey, the cats aren't any good, or the O2s aren't any good. So we're going to turn those off, and the way we do that is we find the first bank 1 sensor 2. Alright, and we're going to go over here and see it says 1 to 2 trips. It'll hit the malfunction indicator lamp and it'll set a code. And the check engine light is the malfunction indicator lamp enable. So that's the DTC enable, and that's the light on the dash enable. So we're going to turn off the dash light on the sensor, bank 1, sensor 2. We don't want it to throw a light. Okay, and we're going to hit this drop down and we're going to set it to not reported, number 3, disabled. And you do that for every sensor 2, and I think there's a couple of sensor 3s, but they'll already be set this way. So we turn all those off. So if you get all of those number 2s, and even that 3 there, and you turn them off, that's what you should see. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, not reported, unchecked. And we do that for all sensor 2s. Any EVAP, any EGR, any CATS, efficiency, any of that, turn all that off. Alright, so like right here, we got catalyst system efficiency, 420. EVAP emission controls, we need to turn all that off. What is that? Exhaust gas EGR, we turn that off. Secondary air pump on the older models like the Camaros, we turn that off because we're not going to be using it. It's already off on the truck. So make sure everything you don't want is turned off, but don't turn anything off if you don't know what it is. Alright, now with everything turned off, the EGR, the EVAP, the CAT efficiency, the secondary O2s, and like I said, the MAF, if you're going to run no MAF on speed density tune, then you're done here. It's the same as in Tuner Pro. We're going to go up to save and just hit save, and it'll save it. And then you'll know, because when you go to close it, it won't ask you to save it. Alright, and then we'll hit close, file modifications, save, yes. Alright, so now we have our new file that is completely edited for no emissions, no CATs, no secondary O2s. We've turned off all the codes on it in Universal Patcher. We have gone into BC Trans and set up the rear gear ratio, the tire height size, so it knows the shift pattern, blah, blah, blah. We're back to PCM Hammer now. So we need to turn her back on, and we need to go to Tools, and we're going to write full again. I always do write full. It'll read the parameters, and in either different, that's all it's going to write. Okay. We know this will replace the memory contents. We're going to hit OK. And we're going to hit our bin file because it got saved. And we're going to wait the 10 seconds and let it write to the computer. Everything will work out. If it doesn't, then you've got some kind of problem. You shouldn't have a problem by now. So if it says elapsed time and your button's lit back up, then you're good to go. We'll turn it on and off and check properties. Read properties. We can check our VIN is still the same, ends in 1375 because we didn't close the app. We can scroll all the way back up to that first read, 1375. So it shouldn't need a crank relearn or any of that BS because we didn't change the VIN. We didn't do anything weird. We literally just edited the file and then rewrote the file back over itself multiple times. This should work. If the customer has a problem, they'll bring it back, obviously. But that's how you do it. Write it to the computer, plug the computer into the truck, fire it up. If you're on speed density mode, that first initial startup, it's going to as it fails the math because it doesn't see a math. Wait for it to fail, and then it'll come back to and it'll idle after it fails the math. Power it off, power it back on, start it up. It'll run like it's supposed to.